If you've been involved in a motorcycle accident, these cases are not like regular car accidents. And so I'm going to give you 5 things that you must know if you're involved in a motorcycle accident and why you need a serious lawyer to handle those type of cases. Here's 5 things that you need to know if you've been in a motorcycle accident. First, motorcycle accidents are very different from traditional car accident cases. Why is that? Because motorcycle drivers, unfortunately, are blamed for accidents at a higher rate than regular vehicle drivers. And that is because insurance companies love to play on a stereotype that motorcycle drivers drive fast, drive recklessly, and don't pay attention to the road they're on. And so my law firm has handled countless motorcycle cases. In fact, one year we had one of the record high motorcycle verdicts in Hall County, Georgia, a very conservative county that typically is not known for high verdicts. But we were able to show that our motorcycle driver was not fitting the stereotype that the insurance company had made, that he was a reckless and careless driver. So the first step for a great motorcycle accident lawyer is to make it abundantly clear that we will not allow the insurance company to show up and make arguments that are improper against motorcycle drivers. Second, motorcycles go fast and their acceleration is extremely different than a vehicle. And so many times insurance companies will take that acceleration or the speed of a motorcycle into account to try to limit the liability or the amount that they pay. Motorcycles are loud in a lot of situations, and we know that they're loud, sometimes for safety, right? To make sure people hear them coming. That's why a lot of motorcycle drivers like having loud pipes that make a lot of noise so that they're easily seen. But the problem is that some people in the public can mistake the acceleration and the loud noises for excessive speeds. And so you might have a situation where witnesses to the accident show up and say, yeah, I heard that motorcycle coming. I heard the sound of the motorcycle, the pipes. And the insurance company tries to use that against you by showing that you were speeding. But I want to be very clear. The speed of a motorcycle has nothing to do with the sound it makes. Because you could be on a motorcycle in a low gear and going a very low speed, and the motorcycle still sounds loud when it's accelerating. And so don't let the insurance company use witness statements that the sound was loud to insinuate that you were speeding. Third, motorcycle injuries are completely different than traditional vehicle injuries after an accident. The question becomes, did you lay the bike down intentionally? Did you try to jump over the vehicle? Did you try to take any sort of maneuver to minimize the amount of your damages? And because a motorcycle injury leads to such horrific damages, we know that motorcycle riders at the last second will try to do things to minimize the damage that it causes. For example, in the multi-million-dollar case that I had up in Hall County, when the driver realized that he was going to hit a vehicle pulling out, he launched himself as high as he could over the hood of the vehicle. And so the insurance company stepped in and said, well, because he did that, he caused even worse injuries for himself. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the evasive action that you took. What matters is that the vehicle pulled out in front of the motorcycle rider. And so, again, insurance companies are going to try to use these last-second maneuvers, these last-second ability to minimize your injuries against you by saying that the motorcycle driver took the wrong action or should have done something differently, should have laid the bike down, should have not laid the bike down, or should have taken some action that would have made the injuries less serious. At the end of the day, those are what we call red herrings, meaning they're just to confuse the jury and make them think that the motorcycle driver should have done something different. But in reality, they have no bearing on who's responsible in the case. Number 4, motorcycle injuries are extremely serious. Typically, for most motorcycle accident cases we see broken bones primarily to the leg bones. We see leg bones that break in half. We see often punctured lungs or broken ribs. These are unfortunately common injuries that we see after a motorcycle accident. We also see road rash because on most cases, if the individual is thrown from their bike, often they roll or slide on the asphalt. That can lead to additional complications, additional bleeding, and additional injuries. These injuries are not like being in a routine car crash. Even with an airbag deployment, the level of the injuries in an automobile crash are typically very different than what you see in a motorcycle accident. It generally is more serious, it leads to more trauma surgeries, and ultimately the motorcycle driver is going to need a lawyer that understands the complexities of those injuries. In our industry, we have these individuals that are called biomechanical experts. And biomechanical experts are individuals that can basically recreate an accident and tell you exactly how that individual had certain injuries that were intended or ultimately happened to them. And so these biomechanical experts we hire to recreate the accident scene so we can know exactly why the two femurs were broken, why the lung was punctured, why there was a traumatic head injury even though the individual was wearing a helmet. These are all aspects of a case that only an experienced lawyer will understand, who does motorcycle accidents and can basically speak the language that's needed to understand how the impact ultimately caused the injury. So the last aspect of motorcycle cases that's extremely different is the fact that motorcycles are all different types. You could have, the Kawasaki motorcycle, you could have a Harley Davidson motorcycle, and different motorcycles operate differently on the roadway. And so to understand how a specific accident happened, you need a lawyer that understands the difference between say a Kawasaki and a Harley, and understands the acceleration differences, understands the speed differences, and ultimately understands the mass of the bike and how it affects the injuries that are ultimately caused. And so those 5 things are some examples as to how motorcycle accidents differ from every other type of car wreck case. And so unfortunately, you can't just call the first car wreck lawyer that you see. You need a lawyer that has proven experience in motorcycle cases. And I will tell you, as an example, that case that I mentioned in Hall County that I had, the jury ultimately came back with $1.8 million for my client. And the situation was, he spoke to me early in the case, and it was a insurance company that was denying responsibility. They were saying speed was a factor based on the sound of the bike and not based on the objective facts that were there. They tried pulling surveillance footage from a nearby bank. They tried arguing that the sound, again, of a witness that a witness described was proof that my client was driving at an excessive speed down the roadway when somebody pulled out in front of him. They basically were denying all fault, denying all responsibility, telling the jury do not award this young kid any money because they were playing on the prejudices that people might have about motorcycle drivers. And many lawyers wouldn't help this individual, wouldn't talk to him, said the case was too risky, but we didn't because we understand the mechanisms of the motorcycle. We understood the injuries that happen from motorcycle cases. And so through that process and some expert testimony, we were able to show the jury exactly what happened, basically in a recreation, and how that accident ultimately caused his injuries. And ultimately, as I stated before, the jury found in our favor, and it was one of the highest verdicts in Hall County, basically for a motorcycle case, which again is a county that's not typically known for high motorcycle verdicts. It's more known for individuals who maybe don't care so much for motorcycles. And so you're going to see a lot of advertisements if you're a motorcycle rider of lawyers that claim to ride and, hey, you should hire me because I have a Harley or this or that. But I would caution you by saying that those are just marketing tactics, okay? A lot of those individuals have never actually gone to trial on a motorcycle case, have never gotten a multi-million-dollar verdict or settlement, and really don't understand. They may understand the inner workings of the bike, but they don't understand how the Georgia law affects those type of cases. And so I would tell you to get an opinion from an experienced motorcycle lawyer who has the results, who can point to the verdicts, has been in the trenches of a trial when an insurance company has refused to pay and has won their case. Those are the real lawyers that you need to look at. Those are the real lawyers you need to talk to, and those are the true motorcycle lawyers in Georgia. We are one of those. So as I've stated, we've been in the trenches, we've done that, and I know I don't look like a motorcycle rider. I have never ridden a motorcycle in my life. But guess what? Having not ridden a motorcycle is not what makes me a great trial lawyer. What makes me a great trial lawyer is that I have results, that I understand how these cases work, and I actually have the results to prove it. And so whether you speak to me or you speak to someone else, always ask your lawyer. I don't care if you ride motorcycles. I don't care if I saw you at a Harley show or Bike Week. What I want to know, what motorcycle verdicts do you have and how successful have you been? Because only by asking that one question will you be able to find a true lawyer who understands these cases and can get you the most that you deserve. And so, again, if I can help you with your motorcycle case, if you want some information, if you want to know more about these type of cases, or maybe you or a family member has been in an accident with a motorcycle and you want to learn more about what you need to do, give me a call. It's a free consultation. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it. And maybe we're a good fit, maybe we're not. But that's the great thing, is that we can have that conversation, we can talk about it, and I can give you my opinion on the value of your specific case. So thank you for listening. My name is Michael Coker. Like I said, I'm an attorney in Lawrenceville, and we give these legal updates through podcast every so often. If you like getting those updates, I would encourage you to like and subscribe. But otherwise, thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.